Tom?
Okay, yeah. Tom from BBC Keys. Hi, Liam. Have you recovered from a couple of weeks ago, which I'm sure was quite a chastening day?
Yeah, you have to. I think, of course, it hurts, frustrated, something that, obviously wasn't happy about. But you have to move on. I think that's the biggest bit. It doesn't make it any better, but you have to move on. You have to focus on what's next and making sure you get ready for that.
Is this challenge at Norwich different to what you expected?
But I'd loved it to have been straightforward, of course. I think in the reality, it's not going to be like that. I think we've had a lot of challenges so far that we have to learn from, we have to use, we have to make sure that we don't repeat. So yeah, it's a big challenge. But again, I think that my whole life, my whole career has been based on that. So I think it is, like I said, head down, fight, keep pushing, keep working with the lads and do everything we can to turn it.
How are you coping? Because it's a tough time.
Yeah, like I say, I'm not delighted about it, of course, but I also understand, for me, how you change it. And it's not sitting around feeling sorry for yourself. I think, am I jumping around dancing over the moon? Of course not. But I think in terms of, for me, I can't control the past. All I can do is learn from it, reflect on it, use it to make the lads better, use it to make the programme that we run better, use it to bring us tighter as a group and make sure that we do everything in our power to try and change it. That's all that ultimately will do it. I think if you, like I said, sit around feeling sorry for yourself, you're not going to change anything.
What is not working and how do you fix it?
Million dollar question, right? I think there's numerous bits. I reflect back on it. I think combination of things. I think when you look at it, I think we've shot ourselves in the foot too many times. I think that for me, the first, you break up the 9 games we've had, I think, in the league. When you look at it, the first 3-4 games, I thought there was signs of progress, signs of things we're looking for, heading in the right direction. Then you have a really tough 3 games, and then for me, I think when I look at the last 2, of course, the results are definitely not what we want, but in terms of the performance elements, as we know in Championship football, when the margins are so fine, you make errors like we have, you get punished. But despite the results, there was progress, which when you're dealing what we've got at the minute with availability, with the volume of change in the summer, with where the team was at the end of last season to now. I think there's so many factors that go into it that we have to use those and make sure that we push forward.
The home form's a head scratcher, isn't it? That's something that has to be fixed.
Definitely we have to. And again, I think not shying away from it, not hiding away from it. It has to be. We have to be better. Simple as that. And we have to do everything we can to make sure we get results out of it.
This weekend, obviously, you're up against your former club. You don't need telling. You clearly need a result for yourself and the team. How big a game do you feel this is?
I think they all are. I actually spoke with the lads the other day. This time a year ago at Bristol City, we were only on 11 points. We finished in the playoffs. So again, I think we were probably getting booed then as well. I think it's one of those. I think when you look at it, you have to recall on experiences. You have to understand and really be strong in what you believe in and how you're working and what you're doing. And I think that's the bit that gets the result that we need. Not chasing the results, understanding how do we do that, and that's by turning up on Saturday, showing fight, showing character, showing togetherness, showing bravery, showing a real passion and desire, which we've seen in games, and we've seen quality in games, and then we've underpinned it by too many errors as well. So I think there's so much work to do, but again, I think that's still the bit that excites me. I think there's so much more to come.
Thank you.
Moving it back to, I don't want to start on a negative, but
Jose
Cordoba, because we know obviously from afar it looks like he picked up a hamstring. What's the latest?
Yeah, hamstring, and gutted for him because I thought he'd come in and done really well for those 2 games. So yeah, gutted for him and disappointed for the team.
Can you give us any sense of severity of that injury and how long he might be out for?
He won't be back before the next international break, so hopefully around then is the time frames, and yeah, it's another frustrating one.
Is it a tear as well? Does he have a surgical procedure?
As it stands, no. As it stands, he won't be needing surgery now.
I would say it is frustrating because that's the second international period. Ben Krasemi, you lost him as well. Clearly, we've talked around this in terms of the players you've had here and the fitness management. And that. Is that something you look at in terms of maybe the communication between when the players go away, the medical teams around these countries, and that channel of the workload that these players have had when they go away?
Yeah, the communication's constant. You know, there's so much data collected and information collected that, you know, it's constantly ongoing. I think the biggest bit, and let's be clear, we've got far too many. And it's a new thing for me to have so many. So again, I think it's something for me that we have to look at. And what's really difficult is to put your finger on exactly what it is. You know, I think there's so many factors when you look at Jose, for example, the travel, the climate, changing time zones. There's so many factors with all the lads that get injured as to why it might happen. There's a huge amount of work that goes in behind the scenes to try and identify it, and then as you go along, you make tweaks and you make changes to try and improve it. And that for me is the most important bit, that you know, not just in a period where you're suffering from it, but also when you're doing well, you also have to reflect on good practice. I think that's something for me that we have to improve.
As you say, last couple of games before the break, you brought it back in. It allowed you to play that maybe higher line because of the athletic power he's got and the pace to recover. Do you feel you've still got the options to maybe go forward now while he's out and play that way?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a bit. I know, when you look at some of the lads, that have come out of the team and then gone back in. I think some of them have benefited from doing that. I think that opportunity to kind of reflect and to maybe step out of it a little bit, then come back in, I think is key. So yeah, we're fortunate we have carried big numbers, so we are in a position where we can make a tweak and a change. And I think that we're not going to move away massively from what we're trying to do, because ultimately since day one, the work we've tried to put into the group, you've seen elements of it start to come out more consistently for longer periods, and we have to keep building on that.
Is Shane Duffy part of that equation? I only ask because we saw a little bit of footage of Club out today. He's clearly out on the grass now doing a little bit of work. Where is he in terms of availability?
We came too soon for him, but he's very close. I think it's a big thing for us in terms of the next sort of week to 10 days. I'm expecting to see a few more back in the group, which is huge. I think having that, being able to select people, being able to use competition, people having to fight for the shirt, I think it's hugely important, and that's what depth and competition gives you. So Shane's a lot closer, Ben Cassini's a lot closer, Matthias has been back out on the grass doing work as well. Forcing to getting closer as well. So when you look at it, we need those lads back, because I think ultimately they have had good impact, or they will do, I'm sure, when they get back.
On Duffy, would Derby midweek be a little bit too ambitious, do you feel, at this stage? Or
we have to see. Again, I don't want to commit to a decision now. I think it's so circumstantial. I think what I can't speak highly enough his voice, his presence, his leadership, his character that he's brought around the place at times. So yeah, he's one that he was out there around the session yesterday and had good impact.
And as you said, what he is very experienced, but again, he knows this league, and that's invaluable in the situation you're in at the minute, I guess. Definitely, and we need that. I think I said it after the previous game. We need people to step up and take responsibility, and that's everybody. That's support staff, is me, is everyone around it. I think there is so much work to do that you must never be fearful of it. You've got to embrace it. You've got to step up. You've got to deliver, and ultimately it's about, can you look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day knowing you're doing absolutely everything, and that that's a real key message for the lads. I think we be brave, face it head on. With Crescenti and Quiscard making good progress, but again, where are you sort of looking at them in terms of the fixture calendar in this block of games?
Yeah, I haven't got a definite game. I think within the next week or so, hopefully.
That's good news. In terms of the rest of the international contingent, I see Kenny, even with those ongoing back issues, he got 90 in for Scotland midweek, and they all come back okay as far as everyone. Yeah, and obviously a fantastic achievement, and obviously making the playoffs, I think, for him. So to come back, train today, looked good, and had a good chat with him this morning as well. So he's he's pivotal, I think, in terms of his leadership, especially he's been there, done it in in tough situations before, and being able to call on someone like him to to drive the group and lead, and also keep people calm. I think that's equally important. He's, like I say, around the place, he's been excellent. Clearly, we are here to look forward to Bristol, but I mean, you've been asked about the derby. I don't want to dwell on that too much, but how long did it take to shift that disappointment around you, the coaching staff, players, maybe the club as a whole, because of how big that game is in this part of the world?
Yeah, of course we addressed it. I think we spoke around it. We understood the knock-on effect, the disappointment, externally what it would have done for the fans. Of course, nobody goes into that game, and I know the lads definitely didn't want him to perform poorly or not win, or and I think it's one of those. I thought, it hurt the lads. I know that as well. You could sense it in training, but then it's, come on lads, you can only, we have to accept that we should feel like that. It's right to feel like that, but then you have to move on and make sure that we have a solid training week, and then we move forward ready.
I mean, you're talking externally, and as you rightly say, you know that negativity is there and that criticism because the results haven't been where you primarily want them to be, but certainly the fan base. I mean, is that something you want to keep away from the group, or can you use it to create a little bit of a siege mentality approach almost?
I think in today's age, I think it's impossible to keep the lads away from any of that on social media. I'm not on it, so I don't see it, but I'm pretty sure I can guess what sort of things are being said on it. So I think it's one of those. If the lads, see it, is what it is. You've got to deal with it. I think, and some of it will be right. There'll be a lot that will be wrong. There'll be, a lot of emotion on there. For me, head down and work. I don't. Same as when we've done well in our careers, I don't need the adulation off of that type of stuff either. For me, is can I look at myself and know I'm giving absolutely everything, and that should be the same for the lads. We're in an industry where our performances get critiqued, and you have to accept that. You have to relish that pressure. You have to stand up, and you have to deliver ultimately.
You said again today, what's got you to this point in your career is in those tough moments when your back's against the wall, you come out and you fight, and everything you've got is you've been earned through that mentality. I mean, do you feel you need that more than ever now at this stage? Yeah,
definitely. I think it's what I've done my whole life. My whole career is fight. I think that's default setting for me is head down, graft, leave it all out there. And I think that's the biggest bit, and that we need everybody doing that. When I see the lads work, I think like I said, they trained really well. But it's now how do you transfer that into the arena when the pressure's on? That's the biggest bit for me. And like I said, there has been signs of progress in that. We now have to make sure that we do it to get a result. It's not about how it looks, it's about how, what do we get at the end of it.
Clearly you're not somebody who consumes social media. You probably don't see too much, certainly stick away from what we probably write and talk about, but don't blame you. But Chris certainly does write a column for us, and his piece this week, he said, look, in terms of you and your situation, stick with you, you're proven in this league, give you time, and you will prove what a good manager you are at this level. Clearly that's nice to hear, but do you feel maybe there has been too much change at this club, in terms of head coach specifically over the last 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, there's no point talking on previous. I don't know the reasons behind all of them. I don't know the impact it has. All I can talk around is what joined in the summer. And again, I think that you look at the back end of last season. I think in terms of the results and where things are at, and I knew it was a big challenge. But I think we live in a world now where people don't like suffering. People don't accept going through tough times too well. So again, I think it's part of the process for me where. We're quite clear we have to turn it, we have to get results, we have to show progress in what we're doing, we have to win matches. But I think if and when you do come out the other side of it, you're much stronger for it. And like I referenced, this time a year ago at Bristol City, we were in a similar position where results hadn't been great, performance hadn't been great. I know joke about it, but we were getting a bit of stick, and we turned it around there, and obviously had a real strong finish to the season. So for me, it's at times it's okay to suffer. It's how do you respond to that, and that's a bit at the minute where we're at. We haven't done well enough result-wise. Performances have been sporadic. We've now got to make sure that we find a way to get a result on Saturday.
But on that point there, as you say, clearly in terms of you and your future, over and above the day-to-day stuff with Ben and Neil. I mean, there's been nothing in the last 2 weeks that's different in terms of that scenario. Other than, as you say, results need to turn. You need to start picking up results.
No, let's be clear. We dissect everything. It's not. I think we're quite clear. We've all got the same goal. Everybody wants to do well, and I think sometimes when you're in a tough moment, you get that that mentality of us against them. But we have exactly the same goal. Everybody, fans, us, all the decisions, the amount of work that goes into trying to move this club forward is huge. And again, I think that for me is it. It's being tough on ourselves to go, what do we need to change? What do we need to do better? How do we help the lads more? And then ultimately action it and doing everything we can to get the group in a spot to go and turn it on Saturday.
I don't think purely on the performances anybody would dispute. The West Brom and the Ipswich games, there were positive signs there in terms of what you're trying to do and maybe moving it on from the games that went before. But as you say, in terms of results, it was 2 defeats. So, what are the steps from here? You talked around that today, but what are the steps from here that you need to take it to change it from the performances to actually performances that bring the results?
Take your chances, be clinical around the box. We lost that game against West Brom because of that. Like I said, 1 shot on goal and we lose 1-0. But when you look at the chances, we have to be more clinical, and it's the little unforced errors which have hurt us too many times this season. And again, I think talk about the Ipswich game, but I thought we actually did a good job of managing the game, and the timings of the goals and the manner of the goals. You go from being in an okay spot to quite a fall off because of the way you concede the goal, and that's the bit for me, is refining those little things. Is, you know, seeing a group that want to go and grab it. I think that's the biggest bit. You know, having people step up and take account for it. Go and be the one to make the difference. Go and be the, you know, the one to drive other people around you forward. And again, I think that's the biggest bit that we need. We need, you know, in a tough period, you need leaders to step up, and you need people to go and, you know, execute the really simple things. That's the biggest bit for me. The real basics of the game to the, you know, to the highest level, but consistently. It's not good for doing it 80% of the time.
Talking of chances and taking your chances, any slight concern from you and your coaching staff, just Josh Sargent in the last few games in terms of the service to it? We know he's a proven goal scorer at this level, but you contrast it maybe at the start of the season, he hasn't really had too many in terms of good opportunities in the last few games.
Yeah, no, it's something we've actually spoken and worked a lot on. Again, I think in terms of, you know, credit to him for his, you know, his application, how he just gets his head down and work. You know, I think he's had a little bit of a rest, which I think is also important. You know, when you look at history for him, so I think, you know, giving him that and freshening him up, I think is quite key. And then, yeah, I think it's very much that. My whole philosophy of the game is that you want your attackers with the ball, so it's how do we get them? You know, when you play against West Brom, it becomes a little bit harder because they put so many players low and deep, and, you know, ultimately fill the middle of the pitch, so it's sometimes a bit harder to find him. So if you look at a lot of our attacking stuff, that day it comes down the outside for crosses, etc., which naturally becomes a little bit more difficult. But yeah, of course, he's the best striker in the league, so we've got to find ways, you know, more ways of getting the ball to him more consistent.
And that is probably an upside, you know, that he hasn't. I mean, I'm sure on a personal level he'd love to have gone away with the US, you know, being a World Cup cycle, but from the Norwich perspective, to have him here for 2 weeks, it can only be a benefit for this block of games.
Yeah, you'd hope so. I think, you know, it's having him available and around the place is key and huge for us. So yeah, hopefully, you know, he's had a bit of rest. Hopefully, you know, that will let things settle, and then yeah, like I say, I'm looking forward to seeing him at weekend.
Well, for me, I mean, obviously, for a lot of reasons, it's probably safe to say, I mean, this Bristol fixture is a special one for you. I mean, how do you reflect now with the passage of time on your work there? You must have been very proud of what you achieved.
Bristol City, yeah, that's the one. Yeah, no, one of those, I think, like, some fantastic people there, some fantastic players, like great people on the playing side and on the staff. Met some, you know, terrific people in terms of the fan base, and we created a special memory, I think, last year in having achieved something that the club hadn't done in such a long period of time, and forgetting football, what you know, the whole city did for me around obviously such a difficult circumstance was something I'll be eternally grateful for. So yeah, one of those. I can't thank, you know, the people of the club and the city enough.
Ultimately, you know, there's no sentiment this weekend. You desperately need to get a result for Norwich. You've been asked about, you know, that Carrow Road factor. We know it's been nowhere near good enough, but do you think that might be weighing a bit heavy on the players now? That frustration that he's clearly just in the stadium, just under the surface a little bit, and how do they deal with that for this weekend?
You have to deal with it. I've said before about earning the right, and that's by playing at a tempo. It's by, you know, managing the game in the right way with, you know, the tempo and us dictating that. It's by showing positive body language. It's by, you know, running as hard as you can. It's by, like I said, doing the simple things really, really well, and that for me, you know, is how you earn the right, and we have to do that, and we have to do it and then win. I think, you know, and get something from the game. I think that's the key bit. You know, we have to get a result that we can.
Good luck.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks.